knowledge and skills, as well as our industry currency and trainer and assessor competence. Okay, so that's basically why we're doing it. Another reason why we do it is because, as I just explained, we're from Esperance. Esperance is 720 kilometres from here, which is a 7 or 8 hour drive, depending on how fast you drive and whether you want to get speeding tickets, which seem to be a regular occurrence for a lot of Esperance to Perth travellers. Esperance has the best beaches in the world, which is why we never leave Esperance. And that's an actual fact because we were voted as having the best beaches in 2012 or 13, I can't quite remember which year. So if you've never been to Esperance, do yourself a favour, get in and book some accommodation, especially over summer. Now, being in a regional area, it does get a bit tricky because obviously the size of our industry in Esperance is quite small. The town itself is only 15,000 people. And obviously we're in the print and graphic design area. We've only got one major printer, a couple of web designers, a few freelance graphic designers, but obviously local industry is limited. And then there's Caroline and I, of course. So that does make it a little bit difficult for us to actually speak to other industry members. And we find that to collaborate is just one of the best ways for us to do so. Of course, there's always the cost involved of getting here, accommodation, meals, hire cars, etc. And the other side of that coin is our students. Now, we have students all over the country pretty well. Not only regional, we do have students in Perth, which just goes to show how good our product is. We have students in Brisbane, Victoria, Kununurra, Denmark, Albany, and in between. So yes, that's our student cohort. And obviously, if you're in Kununurra or Esperance or Albany or wherever, you can feel like you're in a bit of a design bubble. You don't have enough other industry people to talk to. You might feel a little bit insular, and it does make it a bit hard for our students to get motivated. So what we plan to do is create this vibrant online community where our students can contact us. Well, we run a collaborate session every 2 weeks. We have constant contact through a forum come discussion board where the students can ask questions, the students can answer questions. Caroline and myself are on the discussion board constantly. They can email us, obviously, and sometimes we even run one-on-one collaborate sessions if a student is having a bit of trouble with a particular piece of software or something that needs to be narrowed down to a one-on-one situation, basically. So that's pretty much where we're at. We've had this running for, how long now, Caroline? 2 or 3 years, 4 years? And it seems to be working for us. So we thought we'd give you the opportunity to share it with us.
Yeah. So, as Steve said, obviously getting that contact with your industry when you're in a regional area is really difficult. There's lots of problematic issues associated with reaching out to your industry. So what we did was really look at the online tools we were already using to teach our students for our delivery and assessment, and think about how we can push the capabilities of those tools. As Steve said, we run Collaborate classroom times, and we thought, well, why don't we use Collaborate to run guest speaker events with industry and see how that goes. We call these sessions Design for Your Supper, because they happen at supper time. Most of our students are working or have families, so
Screaming kids in the background.
Screaming children in the background often. So we thought, well, supper's a good time. They can sit down, they can be in their pyjamas, they can have screaming kids in the background, and they can still be part of this engaging community. And we have been running these sessions now for about 3 years. So why are our guest speakers always happy? And how do we approach industry? Well, basically we pick up the phone or we send an email and we ask them. Literally, that's all we do, is we ask them. And guess what? Never ever have I had a no. Every single industry representative that I have spoken to has said, yes, that'll be great, love to be involved. And I think there's lots of reasons why we've never had a no, and judging by the calibre of people that we've asked, and I'm never too cheeky to ask, I'm amazed that they've all said yes. But I think one thing, obviously we do work in a fairly technological-based industry, so I think instantly they're quite intrigued by this technology, like, oh wow, you teach online, that's quite interesting, how does that work? So they're quite keen to get involved in that process. But above that, I think, is the fact that, well, you're not going to have to get on a plane, you're not going to have to give up 3 days of your life to come down to Esperance, although as much as our beaches are great, it still means that they're going to have to leave their families. And there's no travel costs, obviously. It is environmentally sustainable, so for people that are considering the environment, and obviously it's something we all need to consider, it doesn't mean that there's people travelling all over Australia to do this kind of thing. And most of the industry experts are really happy to share their expertise. They were students themselves once, and they remember what it was like, and they're usually quite gratified to sort of be asked and to come in and speak to the students. So we really are sharing expertise with very limited resources. We ask the guest speaker to choose their own subject. Usually, obviously, we choose certain areas of design, as most industries have different pathways. I'm sure your own industries would have different areas within it. So does design, so we will pick and choose certain guest speakers depending on what we're teaching at the time. So for app development, for instance, we've had web developers, all sorts of different areas that we'll sort of pinpoint for the context of what we're trying to get out of the session. The guest speakers will usually provide a PowerPoint for us, and because most of them are graphic designers, their PowerPoints are usually pretty awesome. But if that wasn't the case, you could always just make the PowerPoint for your own industry expert if they sort of didn't feel quite happy about doing that. That's easy to do.
We have done. Which
we actually have done, yeah, for an older lady that wasn't too happy with PowerPoint and more of a writer, illustrator. They need a mic and a headset, pretty inexpensive piece of equipment that you can easily get hold of, or is often actually part of the computer, and a webcam can be useful, although most of our guest speakers are actually a little bit camera shy and don't like to get on the camera too much, but that's cool, we don't push that. So, and obviously they can be doing this from home in their pyjamas with a glass of wine, and how great is that you're actually feeding back into a student's experience, but you're doing it purely from your home. So within the actual presentation itself, obviously the biggest thing is it's direct contact and interaction. So it's not like sending the students off to go and watch a YouTube video or a Vimeo video. This is actually directed at the students, and it's within the context of what they're learning at the time. And obviously it's for us, for industry consultation, it's fabulous because we're also hearing and feeding. Okay, so we're talking about app development, say for instance. You know, Steve and I, it's very difficult for us to keep on top of everything that's happening. We get an app developer in who's at the edge of their game, we're learning an awful lot, and we're using that as not only are the students getting that information, but we're using that as well. It's informative, it's interactive, it's within the context of our industry, as we've already said. We can ask direct questions, and we do that quite a lot. In fact, we sort of, you know, dig and dig and dig until we get exactly what we want. But the big one, obviously, is that the students themselves can be out there and they can be asking questions directly of the person that's in that presentation and really pinpointing areas that they really want to know about within that industry. So.
But wait, there's more. It doesn't stop there. Obviously, every session is recorded, just like this one. Hello, webinar people. And then that video will be available on Blackboard to each of the students to watch at their leisure, because a lot of the students can't make it to every session. We wish they could, but that doesn't always happen. So they can go into Blackboard and watch that. And we can also download the video as an MP4. From there, we normally do a little bit of an edit, cut out a few ums and ahs and maybes and faux pas.
Yes.
And then we upload that to our YouTube channel. Now, normally we put them up as unlisted videos because, well, pretty much to protect the presenters themselves. Some of the presenters are very happy for it to go public. I mean, they can use it as a marketing tool themselves if they want. But generally, we have it as an unlisted video, so we have to actually send out the link to students or whoever we want to watch the video. Obviously, what we have here is an ever-evolving resource because, like, every time we have a new presenter come in, we've got another training resource right there. Sometimes we use the videos in the delivery. We might get them. There was one rare creative that did our rebranding, Goldfields rebranding. They came in and did a presentation for us after they'd done the rebranding, and it was so good the way they showed the students how, well, not only the process of the rebranding, but how they presented their work to Goldfields, and also the level of their presentation to us and the students was like it made the students' work quality actually step up because they saw what these industry professionals were doing and how they were delivering their presentations. So the students are going, wow, is that how it's supposed to be?
It lifts the bar, definitely.
It lifts the bar. So we've got these, we've got a whole series of these presentations that we could use as in a similar sort of manner where we give them the video, we make them analyse the video and report back to us. So that works really well. We also find, well, on another level of the students presenting work to us, it also provides a little bit more work readiness for the students for when they might actually get out into industry themselves, because they are seeing these industry professionals come in and there is a certain wow factor. It's like, wow, that is how it's done properly. Future presentations, I think anyone here that works for an RTO is probably going to have a sustainability unit thrown into their training package somewhere along the line. Am I right? And it's like, oh no, not that, I was going to swear then, sustainability units. So we figure in the near future we're going to find a very sustainable graphic designer come printer, someone that cares for the environment and makes a lot of environmental decisions in not only in their design but in their printing and all the way down the line basically. So that could be one of our next calls, I feel. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a, whoops, that's all right, I work in IT. Where is it? This is just a few snippets of some of the presentations that we've had. Not sure what the audio quality is going to be like, but I think we're going to make the URL available to you as well. Now this is on YouTube, and if you Google Summer Shorts demo, we're ranked number 1.
Welcome tonight, Design for Your Supper, the first one for the year. Steve and I did our return to industry this year, and we're lucky enough to meet with Maeve from Enigma, and she was so inspiring and so enthusiastic and so happy to share her knowledge as well, that she has kindly offered tonight to come in to collaborate and talk to you guys.
I'm a UI designer, a user interface designer, that is, and I'm also a specialist WordPress developer. Today's session is Essential WordPress. It's basically an introduction to what WordPress is all about, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about the power of open source.
My name's Chloe, and I'm the marketing strategist and communications lead for AppLab. So we're an app development company. My professional background is in advertising and marketing, but it has always included aspects of art direction and design and photography as well. So hopefully I can share with you some of those things I've learned along my personal journey. Hi everyone. I'm feeling a little bit special right now, so thank you very much for coming along and wanting to hear what I have to say. In the last 6 or 7 years, I have moved around a lot. I've lived in Esperance, then to Kununurra, and then now down to Albany.
Okay, so this is actually the bulk of my work now, creating front-end graphics for apps, mainly for Android at this point.
Welcome to Genevieve Crowell, who is the project officer for the Supertowns branding of Esperance project.
The next 3 slides all look at the 3 concepts from an investment perspective.
And after feedback, we found the client liked option 1 and 2. So you'll see your final logo, white version and black version, with the final colour palette.
We're getting to the end now, guys. I'm so sorry. I didn't realise I'd go on for this long. Don't take it too serious. Some of the best results that I have come up with have actually been when I've just been really silly. And then there's people who have been in the field for a while or who have established a name for themselves that can be really, really arrogant. So, you know, when you are rich and famous, yeah, it'd be nice if you could be a nice, rich and famous person and not an arsehole.
Words from the wise.
Absolutely.
Obviously, one of our... Try Alt-Tab.
Get back to the PowerPoint. There we
Back to
go.
PowerPoint. Not to say that we don't have the occasional IT hiccup when we're
Yes.
presenting these collaborate sessions.
Many.
Yeah, so some words from our very wise presenters. I love that last little comment there.
Yes.
Before we finish up, I just thought I'd impart the fact that we do have an online party every year. We haven't invited our presenters to any of those
No,
parties
we
yet,
should, shouldn't we?
but,
Yeah. And it's a dress-up party.
It's a dress-up party.
So across Australia, there are people dressed up with a glass of wine on their own, having a great time in an online environment. So it works really well. So you push the extent of Collaborate to its absolute, outer limits. But yeah, it's a good time. Yeah, well, oh yeah, we've got this last slide.
Oh, this is another, but wait, there's more. What else do we get out of this? We have had a number of students go on and do work experience with some of the presenters' companies. There was one student in Albany who hooked up with
Maeve.
Maeve,
Yeah.
the app developer in Perth, and although it was work experience, it was done remotely, The student still stayed in Albany, but was designing apps for this lady in Perth, and obviously getting a lot of feedback, and it just worked really well. Other than that, the networking opportunities for us as lecturers and designers goes on, and there's always that opportunity for future industry consultation, which is an ongoing thing.
Yeah, we've built the bridge and now we're ready to go over it. So, so we'll just open it up to any questions. There's any from the online participants? This is always the bit when we are online where everyone's fairly silent, but
or our
yes.
or our people in the audience.
I just wanted to know, did you know these people personally, these industry people, or did you just
No.
were, leaders?
Yeah. So the question was, did we know the industry people and the industry leaders? And no is the answer. Some of them when we come up to Perth, we will try, like yesterday, Steve and I, because we don't get many, we're from the country and we don't get many chances to come to the city. So when we do, we make the absolute most of it. So yesterday we saw 3 industry representatives. And every single one we went to see, the last question was, will you please present for us? And every single one of them went, yep, sure will. Yeah. So often there's that initial, can we come and see you to just talk to you? And but others it's just been a cold call email, just an initial email.
Or
they're
intrigued.
Yeah,
a friend of a student.
Yeah. We've had some student. We've got a student who works for IGM, is it? Oh, the Kalgoorlie gold mining, and they've had a graphic designer that came in to do some work for them, and Tamara suggested maybe we contact this lady and see, and that was the last one, Pippa. That was the don't be a. So it's can be connections like that, but other ones I've just sent them an email and gone, look, we're regional. We really appreciate any time that you can offer. Would you be happy to? And I'll send them usually a quick link to something that we've run, and they're all, sounds cool. Let's go for it.
Not to mention the fact that we might be quizzing some of the presenters at this
absolutely,
conference.
The copyright ladies. We're after them.
Ladies, yeah.
So we'll go and see the copyright ladies and see if they're happy to do one too. So.
Yes.
And probably a second question in relation to that. So how do you, in terms of you maintaining your currency, so do you do a lot of online sort of stuff yourself, and then that's how you identify the people to ask? Is that sort of
so the question was, how do we maintain our currency, and do we do a lot of online sort of researching, I suppose, and well, from my perspective, I follow a lot of blogs, and within graphic design you have to be on top of what's going on. So that for us, obviously in Esperance, has to be an online way of doing that. So little trends and things that are happening will sort of, like WordPress, for instance, that's a big change recently, because that is a content management system that is becoming the industry standard way of creating open source web pages and websites. And our students really need to know how it works, how to create templates for that, and what it's all about. And I don't know, and I don't have time to go and learn everything about WordPress. And so then that's when we go and try and pinpoint someone who's working in WordPress in Perth. So we'll do a bit of Googling. It doesn't have to be Perth, could be anywhere, but we tend to stay West Australia at the moment, but I'm sure we'll go bigger. But and then we find a name, send an email.
And you'll usually find that people in the industry are quite happy to go through your training and assessment strategy and just analyse it. Oh, we think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll give you ideas.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you do this? And it's so it's industry consultation at its best. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a joint thing there. There's not only are they presenting to the students, but they're also looking at our training and assessment. And we get heaps of. The biggest one is that the students are not work ready. The biggest one is that the students that go into the industry they haven't got the work readiness. So that's what we're hoping, we're trying to achieve with this kind of thing, is that they're getting to see, because they are regional and they're not getting to see what's going on. You know, you train in the city, you're surrounded by it all the time, whereas you train in Esperance or wherever in a regional area, and you, like we said, you're in this little bubble, and you're not sure of that extra level that it needs to be to make it in a very competitive industry. So
we give them 3 weeks to do a brief, and we talk to the industry rep, and he goes, "Well, I would probably want that out in an hour and a half."
yeah.
So, yes, we do learn these things.
Yeah.
So really you act as like a broker for your students to actually get that knowledge in, don't you?
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the process you'll get in the knowledge yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kath's comment was that we act as brokers in some way between the industry professionals, ourselves and the students. So
Yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Do you find there's an optimum length for your presenters to do their thing?
Oh, very good question. The question was, is there an optimum length for the presenters to present? Ideally, we'd like to keep it to about 20 minutes, 25. We had one come in the other day. She said, "Oh, I think I've only got about 15 minutes worth of material." And she was the one, the second last one on the video clip that was saying, "Well, I think I've nearly come to the end of my
Yes,
presentation."
like an hour.
And that was 57 minutes. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends how engaging the presenter is. An hour was fine with her because
She was really
she
engaging.
was really engaging, and yes, I'd say less than half an hour though, ideally.
Yeah, and strongly encouraging the students to ask the questions as well, and sort of coaching them through that process, because they're quite intimidated to be asking questions. It's easier in the online format because they're just typing it in the chat area, and often what we'll do is one of us will look after the chat while the other one is sort of helping the presenter, because again they're fairly nervous in an online environment. They've never been in that. We'll always do a tryout before we actually do the night session. But so we'll tend to split it. It's really helpful to have 2 people looking after the room. And then just as the students type the chat, questions in the chat, we'll just make a note of them and then we'll get to them at the end. But you'll have the students that are great and they'll come up with heaps of questions, and then you'll have your other students, just like in any classroom, that won't ask questions. But every single presenter, that's the other thing which I'm always amazed about, gives their email out and their mobile phone and saying, contact me, and I'm like, whoa, are you sure? You know, but yeah, they do that, so it's fabulous. Yeah.
So with the questions, for instance, with your students, do you use your Blackboard discussion prior to the event, so you actually have post up what the event will be for supper time this week, and then have some suggested questions and some suggested ideas around that?
So what Kath said was, do we use Blackboard discussion board to sort of help the students to think about what the session's going to be and maybe suggest possible questions? No, we don't, but I like that. So that's certainly, yes, we certainly will be thinking about that one. We promote the event fairly heavily up to its running, so we'll send posters out, and we've got a Facebook page, so we run it as an event. But certainly helping them to come up with some suggested questions, I think, is a great one. So, because often that can be, if there isn't the couple of students that you've got that you know are going to lead with questions, you're sort of a little bit worried when it gets to question time that everyone's going to be a bit that's just, you know. But luckily so far we've not had that, but that's a great suggestion, so thank you.
Okay, so thanks very much for having us.
Authorised by the Government of Western Australia, Perth.